So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Mike Randall. I work at Nationwide Insurance. I lead the Enterprise Data Governance team, and I'm part of our EDO. And today I'm going to talk about how we used Anomalo and Databricks to solve a problem with our IoT data. In this instance, it's really driver data, and how we use those to solve a problem here. So this is the slide about Nationwide. We are a protection company. We like to keep our promises to our insureds, our members, and you can see like 20.7 billion paid out in claims and paid to members. That's really us keeping our promises. And you can see that we are a Fortune 100 company. All right. So what was the problem we're trying to solve? We offer discounts, and you've probably seen some commercials on TV or other insurers offer this as well, is that if you're a safe driver, you can get discounts. And that's done by putting a dongle, which is the second time that word's been used in this conference this year, which is a little device you put in your car, or more popular nowadays is really the smartphone. And those devices collect information and they send it back to Nationwide. The problem that we had is that the data in the policy saying that you have the discounts, you have the dongle, and the data coming from the vendor and the data that we used to do the pricing and analytics weren't in sync. We didn't know if they were in sync at all. And so we really had to figure out how to do that. Now, Anomalo is really great when everything sits in the same place, but we struggled because we actually had the data sitting in Oracle, we have it sitting in Databricks, and we sit in Postgres. So it's like, all right, now what do we do? How do we solve this problem? So the IoT team said, we actually don't just want to monitor the data, we actually want to reconcile data, which even made it more complicated. So they were doing manual reconciliations, and that really took a lot of time for them to go through and find out where they're out of sync. They weren't actually solving the problems that were causing the out of sync record. So really that was the problem we're trying to solve. All right, so what do? We actually started this process using Dataiku. Databricks was not available at the time, but we used Dataiku to actually prove out that we could actually pull in 3 different sources, we could match up the data, and then we could put a number on top of that. When Databricks Federated Catalog came out, and we wanted to go from a POC into a production, our IT team really wanted to make sure that it was a hardened process. And so they used the Federated Catalog in Databricks to bring those 3 data sets together. And then we did a calculation and we said, all right, tell us when these things are not in sync. And so that's great. Now we can tell when the data is out of sync, good win. But we also want to make sure that we were monitoring the data. And so as part of that, we also made sure we had Anomalo on top of not just the output tables, but the input tables so that we could monitor when the rest of the data was out of sync as well. And so what we're trying to do is making sure that we are moving away from that day-to-day, looking at the data, trying to figure out when it's out of sync, and into more of this monitoring phase. So it really comes down to knowing when and where the data quality problems occur so that our analysts can actually work on other problems and actually solve things like fixing like the system problems that we have that are causing things to be out of sync. All right, so it's great that we got here, but one of the things I really want to touch on is why Nationwide's been successful in being able to roll out data quality to our enterprise. I've worked at Nationwide for 32 years, been in data governance for 15, and it's been a struggle. We try to get something started, we don't get the leadership support, but we have been at it for quite a while, and we feel like we've actually got some success now. And how do we do that? Nationwide actually looks at data as a risk, and we have a risk committee, and this sits at the same level as your audit committee. It's just the same level as your cybersecurity team risk and your IT risk. And so they're actually looking and saying, how is data a risk in Nationwide? Among those, besides privacy and security, is data quality. So now we have a team, a committee that sits at the enterprise level, writing policies about data risk, and also about giving us the ability to write standards, like what we have to actually do. My team is actually responsible to make sure that we bring in those capabilities and that we actually help our partners implement those capabilities. In this case, it was Anomalo. We actually rolled out Anomalo to all 12, 13 of our data governance organizations. We stuck it on all of our analytical data assets. Moving into this IoT space was really the first instance where we went from our analytical databases into more of our operational databases. I do have some of my P&C partners here as well in the audience. They're actually in a transformation. They're going into Databricks for their data repository, and we're working with them to make sure Anomalo gets put into the pipelines in the Databricks as they build that out. So huge success at Nationwide, having a committee, having this policy and standard at the top of the house help us actually move forward. The other part of that kind of how things work, we actually have a risk assessment team that goes back in and goes to our data governance teams and say, are you doing the things that the policy and standards say that you do? And so if they don't, then they get a data risk noted in our risk systems. So how do we tell if we're successful in this whole deal? We actually take the information we get from Anomalo, we pull it out, and we actually create scorecards. That scorecard, top of the house, one of the metrics we track is overall data quality. That score goes back to our risk committee and to make sure that we're on track, to make sure that we are measuring the quality of our data. We also have other metrics that we're actually tracking. We want to track how many of our assets are being monitored, how many tables that we're monitoring. Something we're just rolling out, and that's kind of the other dashboard that we're showing up there, is really are the data governance teams actually looking at the alerts and they're actually taking action on the alerts. So really finding a way to make sure that we are measuring how they're working. And later this year, as we continue to mature in our space, we're actually going to start tracking how many business rules that are being added to Anomalo. So we're going to move a little bit from what is in the past, the structured data, how we're doing things, and talk a little bit about the future, because we have actually been partnering with Anomalo on unstructured data. I found this quote I thought it was interesting. It's an old quote because it has Twilight movie in it. But at one point in time, we were collecting more data than the Library of Congress, but most of it's like cat videos and YouTube. On YouTube are 13-year-olds exchanging texts. So there is a lot of unstructured data out there. As I said, we are, along with some other companies, are partnering with Anomalo to figure out how to do data quality on unstructured data. Based on what we've looked at, we've done, we've talked to our partners. It's important to have data quality, but it's not the same on unstructured data as on structured data. We know things like being on time and being complete are important, but what else? Some use cases that we've actually looked into, claim notes, which ironically in this case sits in Databricks in a column, right? But the structure of that column is free-form text. We have call transcripts and we have contracts and a lot of other unstructured data all over the place. As we start to delve into this, we started asking questions about what does quality mean. Some things that we really want to make sure that we're identifying in that data is, does it have PI data? Does it have abusive language? Is it poorly written? Does it have nationwide specific terminology? We realize that we call something an acronym one way, the industry or someone outside of Nationwide calls another. We can't let the LLMs outside of our company dictate how we use acronyms within it. So those are some things that we've looked into. And again, Anomalo helped us, we helped them to kind of walk through that conversation and say, this is the stuff that we need to look for. The interesting thing about data quality for unstructured data is I may want to flag and identify abusive language, but I also may want to have that information passed on to my LM so it knows when abusive language is being used and what to do with it when it hears it. So if you think about future, when you have customers interacting with a GenAI solution and they start using abusive language, you want to know how that application will deal with that abusive language. So with that, that's all I have today. Again, thanks for coming. This is probably a little bit bigger turnout than I expected here on Thursday afternoon, right after the keynote session. So appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.